So here we are saying goodbye to 2024 and hello to 2025. And I know if you're like me and many, many other people, you have New Year's resolutions. And if you're an American, they probably involve weight loss or health, exercise, all that stuff. I fully support New Year's resolutions. I think it's great that you're motivated for a fresh start. Probably wasn't my best idea releasing this after the beginning of the year. But you know what? Maybe if you already have resolutions, this will help you modify them as needed. Maybe you'll just catalog this in the back of your mind and see how your resolutions go and then be like, oh yeah, I remember Derek said this, so I can calibrate this way or that way. Or maybe you just don't have any resolutions and this will motivate you to. I don't care. I support you trying anything, especially just watching this video and having these tips in your mind. So who am I to give tips on health and weight loss? I want to front load this video right now, just admitting right off the bat, I am no expert and I am not formally trained in any of these disciplines. All I can say is that I've read, researched, and also have personal experience in the field. And so I am just going off what I understand, what has worked for me, and what I've been able to observe. For those who haven't seen it in my previous videos, in 2017, I hit my heaviest at 260 pounds, which even though I'm 6'3", that's still pretty sizable. And we'll call it a dad bod. I was very well into the dad bod territory for sure. But then once I started losing weight, I had a goal of hitting 185 pounds, which is a 75-pound weight loss, and it took me 4.5 years to get there. Now you may be asking, Derek, why did it take you 4.5 years to do that whenever I know this other guy over here, Jonathan Pritchett from Theology Geek Fitness, subscribe to him, who did that in 6 months? Yes, that is true. He went in knowing exactly what he was doing. I did not do that. I went in with a lot of misinformation and a lot of majoring on the minors and focusing on things that made little to no difference in weight loss. But even though it took me a lot longer than ideally it would for most people, I still did it, and I have personal experience to go off to give you the tips that can hopefully keep you from making a lot of the same mistakes I did. Now, I already have a video where I go over what I would do differently if I were to lose weight, and you'll get a lot of helpful tips there. But with this one, I mean to directly give you tips and not just say, oh, if I could do it again, I do this or that. No, just these are things that you can jot down, that you can remember, put them in the back of your mind, whatever you want to do to move forward with your New Year's resolutions, especially if they're focused on weight loss. So before I get started, I just want to say your mileage may vary. Everyone is different. Everyone goes about weight loss differently. Different things work for different people. People have to modify things differently based on their schedule, based on their diet preferences, based on allergies, based on health considerations. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So I'm going to be broad enough that it will empower you to figure out how you can decide what's going to be best for you moving forward. So as I've said, I've talked about this in a previous video, and if you want to check that out, that's where I go over basically that weight loss comes down to calories in versus calories out, and that whether you're doing a low carb or high carb diet, doesn't matter as long as calories and protein are equated. Studies have shown that the fat loss is going to be essentially the same. I talk about fat burning versus fat storage and how that contributes to fat loss. Once again, calories in versus calories out, the whole energy balance thing and how it boils down to that and all the factors that go into that. I'm not going to rehash that now. If you want to get into the nitty gritty there, it's in that video. Right now, we're just moving forward with the understanding that weight loss boils down to calories in versus calories out, and that whether it's high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat, as long as calories and protein are equated, the fat loss in the long term is basically going to even out, okay? So now that I've established that, here are 3 principles I have for weight loss. Number 1, as I just got done saying, if you want to lose weight, the first principle to losing weight is you have to be in a calorie deficit consistently in the long term. That is number 1 because you can't get around that. There's no bypassing that. There's no hack. There's no shortcut. You have to be in a calorie deficit. And if you don't know what that means, it means that you are consuming fewer calories than you are expending, right? And so that's something that you can figure out in various different ways. There's calorie calculators. You can look in your Apple Watch. Sometimes those aren't like super precise, but essentially it's just being able to consume fewer calories than you are expending. If you do that, you will lose weight. If you are consuming more calories than you are expending, you will gain weight. That is just how it works. Now, there are things that affect the calories in versus calories out. And like I said, it's all in that video. I'm not going to go over it here, but at the base of everything in weight loss, calories in versus calories out. That took me a long time to really grasp, okay? So, number 1 principle, be in a calorie deficit consistently in the long term. So now that we have that out of the way, I just wanted to share some stats with you. Out of obese people who lose weight, 50 to 70% of them regain the weight within a year. 85% of them regain the weight within 2 years, and 90+% of them regain the weight in 3 or more years. So if you want to lose weight and keep it off, what matters? What may happen is you're going to go on to TikTok, you're going to go onto YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You're going to see these reels of these influencers who are going to tell you, follow this exact diet protocol because that is how you're going to lose weight. Or what you're going to have is people, hey, I did this diet protocol and I lost weight. Everybody should do it. But here's the problem. When they do studies and even meta-analyses of these studies, what they find is that the diet people use to lose weight is not the predictor of who keeps the weight off. What is the predictor of who loses weight consistently and keeps it off in the long term is adherence to the diet, not the specific diet itself. So what this tells us is that it's more important to find a diet that you can stick to than it is to find whatever you think the perfect diet is. To give an example, keto diet is in fashion. Carnivore is becoming even more in fashion nowadays. Guess what? I cannot stick to those. If I told myself the only way I could lose weight is to go keto or carnivore, guess what? I'm not going to end up losing weight because I'm going to try it for a little bit and then I'm going to fall off the wagon and it'll be a repeat cycle. I know this because I've experienced it before, not with keto or carnivore, but with dieting in general. I start fresh on a Monday and I'm like, this is the diet. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to strong arm myself into weight loss. Then I fall off in a few days and then I start fresh on Monday. And the whole time I'm little by little gaining weight over time. So I'm saying all this to set you up to understand that it is not about, hey, you need to choose this specific diet or this specific protocol. No, it is do what works for you. That's principle number 2. Do what works for you to achieve principle number 1, the calorie deficit consistently in the long term. That's going to be different for everybody. People do it with keto. People do it with carnivore. I didn't do it with either of those. Mine was intermittent fasting and what some people call flexible dieting. Now it kind of looks like macro fasting, which I can talk about later. For other people, it is just sheer calorie counting. Some people may go paleo or vegan or vegetarian, or they just cut out sweets completely, or they stop drinking pop, or they just cut out sugars. Whatever the diet is, it's got to be something that you can stick to consistently in the long term in order to achieve that calorie deficit to lose weight. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're going to lose weight, you have to have some sort of restriction. You have to. But the good news is you get to choose which restriction feels the least restrictive. The reason intermittent fasting worked for me is because I can be hungry for a while if I know I get a satisfying meal at the end of it. Whenever I lost all that weight doing intermittent fasting, I told everybody, you just need to try this. You need to do intermittent fasting. If everybody did this, everyone would lose weight. But the fact of the matter is that's not true because not everybody can stick to it. That was my thing. I'm on Twitter and I see people promoting carnivore all over the place. So many influencers are carnivore, an all meat diet. Guess what? If you can do that and you enjoy it and you can stick to it and you lose weight from that, congratulations, I support you, but not everybody can. So to review, principle number 1, get into a calorie deficit consistently in the long term. Number 2, do what works for you in order to achieve that, okay? And then I do have a principle number 3. This one isn't nearly as important, but I over time realized, you know what? I think this is something I'm going to throw out there because I've been on both sides of this. Number 3, go as hard into that diet as you can that allows you to stick to it and doesn't adversely affect your health. Because the harder you go into it, presumably, the faster you will lose the weight. The reason I say this is because I don't like dieting. I don't enjoy it. I don't like having to lose weight. It is not fun. I like my food. I like to eat. I like to enjoy it. I like to be satisfied by it, right? And so for me, it just made sense to go as hard as you can into it. Like I said, don't let it adversely affect your health and don't go so hard that you can't stick to it because then it's pointless. But just go as hard as you can while being able to stick to it without adversely affecting your health. That way you just get the weight loss done faster, right? That's what Jonathan Pritchett does. I mentioned him earlier, Theology Geek Fitness. Subscribe to his channel. He did it in 6 months. And guess what? That was hard for him. He said that was the hardest thing he's ever done. But 6 months to lose 75 pounds and then you're done? After 6 months? Yeah, it's hard discipline, but a high reward. Or do you want to be in a restrictive eating phase for 4.5 years like me? No, that sucks. Okay, so go as hard as you can that you can still stick to it. Okay? And just have some grace with yourself. If you've never done this before, if you've never committed to weight loss, or you've tried so many different things and this is just another trial that you're afraid you're going to fail, have some grace with yourself, because if you fall off the wagon, just get back on the next day. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to stress about it, okay? And then modify things as you need to. Some people, and you know what? I was this person. Some people just need one little baby step in their diet. It's like, hey, maybe I won't do this anymore. It's small, but it's something, right? And then you get used to it. And then you're like, okay, now I'll take another step and cut this out or try doing this, right? And that way it's like it builds up over time. Look, weight loss, I would rather just get it over with as fast as I can. But if you got to be a little slower about it just because you are that undisciplined, don't be ashamed of that. Like I said, it took me 4.5 years to accomplish this, okay? But I'm happy it took me that long rather than never doing it at all. So this is why it goes back to that second principle. Do what works for you. But just consider that third one. Go as hard as you can into it, okay? So those are the 3 principles I think are worth following in order to accomplish weight loss goals. But there are a few things I want to touch on as well. I know a lot of people out there are concerned about weight loss, but a lot of people are also really health conscious. Well, let me first start off and say that if you are overweight or obese, losing weight is the healthiest thing you can do for your body. There is nothing else that's going to even touch it. You can cut out all the seed oils. You can cut out all the artificial sweeteners. You can cut out all the food dyes. You can do cold plunges. You can do red light therapy. You can do saunas. But if you're not losing weight, all of that will accomplish very, very little. But if you lose weight, it'll bypass so much of that as just completely superfluous in comparison. The second most healthy thing you can do is exercise, specifically resistance training and cardio. I say both because a lot of people are going to go into the gym starting January 1st or sometime, in the days following, and they're going to spend all their time on the elliptical or the treadmill. You know what? That's great. It's better than nothing. Get some resistance training in there as well. Both are very crucial for your health. And then there's also the meatheads out there who are like, yeah, I'm going to smash it at the gym. Do some cardio, because your cardiovascular health is also very important for longevity. If you do both, you're going to be doing so well for your body, your health, and your longevity. But once again, these are things that come down to what works for you, right? My version of cardio, as you can see, I love to run. I just went on a 4-mile run before I started recording this. I like running because I can just go out and do it with minimal equipment. I just need my running shoes, I got my watch, and that's pretty much it. Some people would prefer walking. Some people prefer, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Some people prefer biking. Some people prefer the elliptical. Whatever works for you. I know a guy who does a pedal station whenever he's at work. Some people will have a work setup where they're just walking at their desk all day. That all counts, and that's all great for you. But I do want to dispel one little thing whenever it comes to exercise, cardio, resistance training. Yes, if you resistance train and build muscle, that is fantastic for your longevity. But a lot of people say it'll help you burn more calories. Yes, it will. The working out your muscles will burn extra calories. Not a lot, though. Like, not that much, not as much as people make it seem. And they're like, oh, if you build more muscle, then your body is going to burn more calories at rest. Yes, that is true. But once again, it's just not that much. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Even when we talk about cardio, yes, cardio is great for burning extra calories, a lot better than resistance training, right? But the thing is, people overestimate how many calories they're burning when they exercise. You think that you can go outside and run a mile, and it's like, wow, I ran a mile today. Can you believe I did that? Yeah, 3 Oreo cookies is going to offset that. 1 tablespoon of olive oil that you put in your cooking is going to offset that mile you just ran. Trust me, I'm someone who, whenever I go out for a run, I'm doing a minimum of 5 kilometers, 3.1 miles, and that burns, I think, generously speaking, 450 calories, which is good, but 1 cheeseburger and that's gone. A pound of fat is about 3,500 calories. In order to burn 3,500 calories, I would essentially have to run a marathon. So I say all this because exercise, resistance training, cardio are great for your health, but I would not use them as the tool for weight loss. They go great with it, but if your goal is weight loss, they are not lying when they say 80 to 90% of that is going to be accomplished through your diet. The exercise can give a little bit more wiggle room and it can contribute to a greater calorie deficit, but once again, just not that much. What's easier to you? Run a mile or don't eat those 3 Oreo cookies? What's easier, run a mile or use some cooking spray rather than cooking oil? It's little things like that. So once again, I don't want to downplay it. I think exercise is one of the best things you can do for your health and longevity. But when it comes to weight loss, the exercise is not going to make anywhere near as much of a difference as your diet will. Also, real quick, just to kind of give you guys the raw truth, if you're overweight or obese and you've never accomplished weight loss as you're hoping to now, just understand you probably have more weight to lose than you're guessing, and you probably have a lot less muscle than you think. That's one thing that I was shocked to find out. I thought whenever I started losing weight, I was like, at 185, I'm going to have a pretty solid six-pack. Guess what? I had a little bit of definition in my abs. I was nowhere near a six-pack. I even got down to 173 at one point, and I had good abs, and if I flexed, I had a decent six-pack, but I still wasn't anywhere near what I imagined. The other thing I want to touch on is the sheer amount of misinformation on social media sites, especially TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You're going to see reels or shorts of these people who are saying, don't do this, don't do that, only do this, only eat this, like never, ever, ever touch this. It is the worst thing ever. A lot of it is fear-mongering because that generates clicks and reactions generate them money. They are incentivized to scare you into watching their videos and then coming back because you are so afraid to touch other things. You're like, what do they say about this? What do they say about that? Maybe I need to stay away from this, right? So what I would say is avoid that as much as you can. The thing is, if somebody is saying you have to do this diet or never, ever, ever touch this food, or here's a diet, weight loss, health, workout hack, right? Just understand, I always say this, the real hack is the person trying to sell you on that, whether they are trying to sell a product or they are just trying to garner impressions, likes, comments, shares, all that stuff. They get paid to do that. The fact of the matter is there is no shortcut to weight loss, only discipline, right? And the other thing is that studies have shown that if you equate calories and protein within all the diets, in the long term, they accomplish essentially the same amount of fat loss. Like, don't worry about that, okay? The number one thing to do, find the diet that works for you, that puts you in a consistent calorie deficit in the long term. So you got the calorie deficit, you got adequate protein. From there, get your diet and your exercise in, and that takes you like 90% of the way right there. And I would say focus on that. Just get started with those basics. And you know what? Whenever you start to see a little bit of progress, it motivates you, and then you can learn more, you can do more, you can strive even harder if you wanted to, right? Or just keep doing what you're doing and just keep watching the numbers on the scale go down, watch the clothes fit a little bit better. If you're working out really intensely, maybe you're seeing certain maxes go up and stuff like that. It's a beautiful process, but don't stress about little minor things, okay? And what else I learned is that motivation is great to get started. And you're probably watching this because right now you're motivated to get this process started, but it's not going to keep you going. It will not. Motivation does die eventually, but what has to be left over from that is discipline, right? And this is what I tell people. Derek, when did you enjoy going to the gym? When did you start liking it? I have never enjoyed going to the gym. I never wanted to go to the gym ever. But I did. Whether or not I wanted to was irrelevant. It didn't matter. It's a non-factor. Do I want to be hungry all day, whenever all I can think about is eating a DiGiorno pizza all to myself? No, I don't. But I did it. It's not about want. It's not about desire. It's not about whether or not you feel like it. Discipline is consistently doing whatever is necessary, whether or not you feel like it. You know what? And I say I love running. Generally, I do. But sometimes I don't feel like running. When it's 17 degrees outside, do you think I really want to get out there running whenever the wind is like 10 miles an hour and straight into my face no matter what direction I run? No, it's miserable. But I do it. Every time you make the right decision, it becomes just a little bit easier to make that right decision the next time. And then even easier the next time, and then the next time. You see, that is the upward spiral of discipline, but the same works in reverse. Every bad decision you make, it becomes harder to make the right decision, just a little bit, and then harder, and then harder. That's the downward spiral of falling off the wagon. So just remember, when it comes to weight loss, there is going to be restriction, there is going to be difficulty, but you have to just find what works for you, that it feels the least restrictive, that sucks the least, and that you can actually be disciplined in over time till you get to a point where you just do it, whether or not you feel like it or not. And that can be built. You're going to fall off the wagon sometimes. You're going to fail. You're going to have to calibrate things. You're going to have to change things here and there, but it's a journey that is one that's worth making. So I'm not going to leave you guys just completely without information. I do have people I watch on YouTube that I find very trustworthy in this respect and that have been crucial in helping me figure a lot of this stuff out and getting me to my own goals. So I'm just going to name off a few channels. You have BioLane or Lane Norton. He's going to be really good at going over studies and whatnot about, dispelling weight loss and health myths. He's really good at that. He'll also get into workout stuff as well. I mean, he's a world champion lifter. The other one I recommend is Renaissance Periodization with Mike Israetel. He's also kind of like BioLane, where he's going to dispel a lot of myths. Mike Israetel gets into diet and health, but he's really good at talking about stuff that works in the gym. After that, you got Mario Tomic. I got him linked in the description as well. I really like his channel. He gives very practical, simple advice for weight loss and for building muscle, all the different health stuff. Of course, I can't recommend people without recommending Greg Doucette, also a championship bodybuilder. He knows his stuff. He's funny. He's fun to listen to. I give him a huge recommendation. And then after that, I have Sean Nalawani. He goes by Sean Nal because I'm going to struggle spelling his last name, but he dispels a lot of stuff and he can be funny too. So I figured that's a good place to start if you guys wanted additional information. Those are the experts. They're going to link you to the studies. They're going to link you to everything. They're going to be the ones with all the know-how who can get into the nitty-gritty that I can't get into. I found them trustworthy, and like I said, they have helped me immensely. That's my advice. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys get a lot out of this. I pray that we could be good stewards of our bodies. Our bodies are gifts from God, and it's very important that we steward them properly. It doesn't mean we have to be as ripped or as in shape as we possibly can. It just means we're taking care of ourselves. So thank you for watching this far. I pray that the God of hope fills you with all joy and peace as you believe in him. Happy 2025.